So basically, the plan for today is that I want to work on Nakai's interactivity more because I was making some good progress on that the other day. And I think there are interesting things to show, and I kind of have some ideas now of avenues that we can take with that. The code is not great. It's like very much hacked together, but that is something that we can work on and improve. So basically, what I've got right now is this DOM template project, which imports this new Nakai slash DOM module, which is actually just defined in this project for now. So I'm kind of like pretending to be Nakai. And this is something that I've actually really been enjoying about Gleam's module system when you're like when you're a package maintainer and you want to like work on something without mucking about in the actual repo, or if like before I've added a new function to like Gleam standard lib, and then I've been impatient and not wanted to wait for a new release, so I'll just like create a Gleam slash list extra or whatever module, and I'll like paste my one function in there. And then it's an extra import, but like it makes it easy for when that change does get published, I can just like remove that import and rename the package that I'm calling the function from like list extra to just list or whatever. Um, that's just really nice. But so this DOM module is just like really, really simple. It has a couple of functions. There's a public mount function for if you have something static that you just want to render. It doesn't care about state. It's not going to like send messages to itself. It's just a simple one and done thing. And I should maybe even like change this type signature to specify that like your update type has to be nil so that you don't try to do anything silly. But then there's this start function where it takes an app that has a model type and a message type. Uh, and basically, like we've got this internal mount function that takes an update parameter. And that update parameter is a function that gets a message and then decides how to re-render the app. So it just calls start again uh, with a new version of the app that has the new model as its initial model, um, and it renders it into the same parent element. So you're basically just like recreating the app every time a new message comes through. And then this do mount function is just doing the bare minimum of we set the inner HTML of the parent element to be completely empty so that we can just like completely rebuild the tree from scratch, which for large apps and for apps where you're like sending lots of messages will eventually become a problem. But while we're in the prototype stage, like it works fine. And it enables me to experiment with things that are more fun. Um, this does exactly what you would expect. If it encounters like an element, then it just creates an element with that tag, adds all the attributes, and then builds its children inside of itself and inserts itself into the document. I've got this document module that just has all of these like FFI functions, which I would really like to split into its own package for other people to use, because I'm not currently aware of a good DOM binding library for Gleam. And I think we could really use one since we are targeting web dev stuff. Yeah. And then it has this index page that is just like a straight copy from the most bare minimum like Elm example of just you have a model that stores a number, you've got a message that can update that number, you've got a function that handles the update, and you have a view that takes that model and renders it into something more substantial. So I'm kind of not sure what I want to work on first, actually. If I want to work on trying to split these DOM bindings out into something more reusable, I could do something with hydration to try and make it smarter and not destroy the entire tree every time, but that honestly doesn't sound very fun right now. But I have been thinking a lot about how this is going to integrate with Nakai as it is. Like how can I use Nakai to generate a hydrated page on the server and then send that to the client and then get nice interactivity stuff without having to send a bunch of unnecessary JavaScript. Like just send as little as we know we can get away with sending. What my demo is doing right now, if I cd into this folder, is basically I've just been using esbuild to turn the JavaScript that Gleam outputs into a bundle. So I'll just run that, and then I just serve it. And then I can load it like this. And I can change the count up and down, which is basically what I imagine all of you have seen from what I shared in the Discord. I think it would be cool to figure out how to turn this page into something that Nakai is generating rather than just like right now it's just this little hard-coded HTML file. There's nothing magic happening here, like this is just an HTML file that I wrote by hand that I would like to provide a way for people to just generate. I'm not sure the best way to do that though. I think that the DOM builder is going to be a library separate from Nakai's core, that the main Nakai package will continue to just be some stuff for tree building, and then it will come with the string renderers built in. But if you want the DOM renderer, then that's something you have to opt into, which allows Nakai to still be used for the simple thing while also letting you opt into using this other package that's a little bit more opinionated to kind of make things magical for you. But that is optional if you don't need interactivity or if you just don't want to deal with it. If you don't like the opinions that I have or whatever. Um, the button presses don't need to be a JavaScript string. They can be any data type. They can have functions and whatever embedded in them. So let's see. Basically, when we're rendering things, this hydrate function gets called recursively. Uh, so every time we hit an element, we call hydrate again to render the new element's children inside of itself. Part of that is that we add all of the attributes to that element. And there's this add attribute function that handles both when the attribute is just like a regular string attribute, or if it's an event. And if it's an event, it calls add event listener on that element for the event name. And the callback just calls this update function that we are threading through the render process. So it gets created in this start function, and we say, whenever we get a new message right here, then we're going to call start again with a new app that starts with this new state created by calling app.update given the old state and the message. We render that into the same parent element as we were in before. This function gets passed here. It's passed everywhere that we call it recursively. It's passed to add attribute, and then add attribute is where we actually call that. Yeah. Um, this is much more in line with what Elm does, which I like, because if we were doing event handling, like you could already do that kind of like string based inline JavaScript event handling in Nakai as it is, because you would just do something silly like I have a paragraph, and as one of the attributes, I'm going to pass it an on click, and that on click is going to say alert or whatever. It could do something more meaningful than this. Um, or I guess more realistically, this would be like a button or something. But this is already something that you could do in Nakai today. There's nothing stopping you from doing this kind of string-based thing. But I've never even liked string events in JavaScript. I've always thought that they felt just like weird and out of place. Uh, and especially for this, I would prefer that you're writing the rest of the app in Gleam, and your event handling and your interactivity should be able to be written in Gleam as well. And I think that the Elm architecture is just a really nice way to enable that. Oh man, I am realizing that the chat overlay is actually like super unreadable. I need to mess with that because I set the, where's the color? There it is. Oh my god, this app is weird. Or wait, what is this the color for? Nah, it's not a hassle. I just need to fix this because I use a light mode editor theme because I'm a heathen. Okay, if I change the text to black though, And then, oh, did that already take effect? Does this look okay now? Sort of. I do like to use a light theme. I don't know why. I've always been a dark theme person until I found this specific theme. Uh, and like I can show you. If I go to VTest dark, this just doesn't hit the same for me. Like it's fine. I don't hate it, but it's not great. This this just like super nails it. I don't know. This just makes my brain go burr. I also noticed that oh, show messages permanently. There's this slider right here that's still shown even when that's enabled. That's super dumb. I would like messages to fade, pretty please. Um, cool. And then I'm just gonna refresh that to make sure. Ooh. Yeah, I really like your theme. This looks super nice. I also like your elite hacker skills and the fact that you use NeoVim. Out of curiosity, how insane is your NeoVim config setup? Like, are we talking hundreds of lines, thousands of lines? Do you have some crazy system for syncing it between computers? Rose Pine Dawn. That sounds familiar. Is that one of the themes that Helix comes with by chance? Uh, Yo, it is Rose Pine Dawn. Actually, yeah, I use Rose Pine Moon as my Helix theme. So I just use the dark version of your light mode in NeoVim. Yeah, same Danielle. That's why I use Helix whenever I'm in the mood for a modal editor. Because like the default config is a solid good enough. It's got decent ways for like browsing through files. It doesn't really have Git integration, but I'm comfortable enough with Git on the command line that I don't super miss it, especially for simple things. Sometimes I'll regress and like go back to VS Code if there's like something particularly hairy. Just honestly, just so I can even like see the tree, I might still run it as commands, but just like having the visual bit of state helps to like imagine what I need to do. Um, and Helix also comes with like language servers and stuff, which I know is really easy to get working in NeoVim, but isn't quite an out of the box thing. Yeah, for sure. Um, Emacs goes way over my head. Uh, I've tried using it before, and I'm just too oblivious. I like don't even know what the difference is between it and a regular text editor. Honestly, the main complicated Git thing that I ever want to do is I'll be messing with like 1,000 files at once, and I only want to add a couple of them to a commit at a time. And on the command line, I'm always lazy and I just do git dot add or git add dot. And then sometimes that's not what I want. And I know I could just do git status and like see what files are untracked and stuff, but we're all creatures of habit, and my habit is to use a git UI. Git commit am. Is that a thing? That just brings up the whole manual for Git. Ooh, my god. Interactive. Or A. So it just adds modified files and not untracked ones. I mean, interactive is probably a thing I could do. Anyway, I'm being entirely too distractible. I should like actually write some code or something. Git add p. Okay, I'm gonna get distracted for one more second and see what p does. Interactive patch selection interface. What's the difference between p and interactive? Also, I missed the as long as you don't use Nano, then we're good message. What if I use Notepad++? I feel like I should still get canceled for using Notepad++. I don't, but like, it would be funny. Hmm. I'm definitely gonna play with git add p later. That sounds like it might help me be more productive in Helix, honestly. Because, like, it seriously is just, oh man, I missed the Git UI, and that makes me switch back to VS Code. Um, Actually, okay, I thought of something that has been bugging me and I would like to fix. Like, if you look in the README that I made for DOM template, also, I haven't even turned this into a Git repo yet, so we can do that. Uh, I really wanted it to be like a Gleam Run dash M type of thing to do the ES build bundling. Um, but I regressed and just like put the command that you're supposed to run here because I made this little command module that I was trying to just do like a super simple node FFI thing. And it's not working. And I would like to figure out why. So it just calls this external function do spawn in this file. And do spawn just calls spawn sync with the command and the args that you gave it. It should inherit standard IO. And if I go to that README, I can copy this command. I can go to this build file. Ooh. Oh, right. That. So command dot new and then I probably want to add an args function. I was kind of just modeling this off of like what running commands from Rust is like. So args is going to be a list of strings. And I'm like storing them backwards so that I can try and be faster. So rather than getting to just prepend a single arg here, we're going to have to do like list.flatten. And I know it's called flatten because I watched Louis struggle with this yesterday. So flatten, or right, that's what I was trying to create this list for. So we reverse the args that you gave us, and then we flatten that in with the existing ones. And then right before do spawn, we can do like an IO debug self.args just to make sure that we're doing something sane here. Import gleam.io. Okay. So now this can be args, esbuild, bundle, output. Yeah, it looks like it's suggesting the right thing there. Oh, wow. I didn't know Gleam format would densely pack list elements like that. That's interesting. Okay, so if I run this esbuild command by hand, you see that I get like this little bit of output where it says what file it created and how long it took. But if I say gleam run dom template / build, I get an error that is not the one I expected. And also I'm just like straight up forgetting to do a bunch of stuff. Like I need to spawn the command, and then I probably care about the output we're getting. And then I did something wrong in here. Oh, I lost a paren somehow. Okay. So it says, yeah, we're calling npx esbuild bundle outdir to this file, or from this input file with an ESM format. And then we're even getting 0 as the exit code. But like if I come over here and I delete this file, and then I run this again, it doesn't get created, like it's just not there. And then if I run it directly, like I see the terminal output and it creates the file. And I would very much like to figure out why that's not working when it appears to be. Are we getting that angry face? I forgot I like kind of tried debugging this before. Status 0, 2 output buffers. That's super confusing. Oh my god, I think I just realized what I'm doing wrong. That feels so obvious. Fuck, that was it. Okay. This is a gleam list, not an array, and I was calling .toArray in this console.log, but the thing that I was passing to spawn sync was not a list of args. So of course it didn't think anything was happening. Oh no. Did my stream freeze? My internet freaked out at the very least. Or is it just my iPad? Got unhappy. I can't tell if it's just my iPad being weird or if the stream broke or something. Hmm. Okay, my iPad just finally started working again. And a bunch of people say they are here. So, okay. Let's continue then. Yay, this is exciting though because I can finally not be doing weird sadder stuff. I can just use this like nice little thing that I made, which would also be a cool thing to turn into a library. Um, Especially if I could make it work the same way between Gleam and Erlang. That would be very sweet. Did I say Gleam in Erlang? I meant Erlang in JavaScript if I did. Okay. Not you. Come on, give me the thing. There we go. And then I can just run that. Sweet. And I can also ignore that. And that's fine. And that can just import that. And I don't need to keep this test comment anymore. So cool. Get rid of this from the README. This is good enough now. Awesome. Right. Okay. So one of the things that Nakai DOM so far introduces is this app type. And I'm thinking that a way I could make this work with rendering from the server and then hydrating would be if I have a function that for lack of a better name right now, I know some frameworks will call this like an island or something. I think that's a silly name. I would like to do something better. That's wrong. This is an A. Wow. Sometimes Copilot just super makes stuff up. That's nonsense. But basically, you would use an interactive boundary somewhere in your Nakai app when you're rendering it on the server, and then stuff inside of there would be able to get updated on the client, and anything outside of there would just be static so that we're not messing with like the head and stuff on client. I think given the functionality on the server, we kind of would want to be able to mutate the head in certain ways, but I don't think it should be rebuilt entirely on every update. But this could maybe be like, it creates a fragment, and that fragment contains like a signaling comment. You would need to pass it something to put inside. We would put the content. Keyboard. There we go. And we could search for these comments that are hopefully special and unique-ish. And then we do something magic there. The real problem that I'm trying to figure out how to get around is like when we call our start function, we have some app that we're giving it. And we need a way to know what this function is on the client and the server. Especially in the case where The server might be Erlang or it might be JavaScript. Although maybe that's a benefit of this being a separate package from like Nakai core. Maybe I actually could only have this work in JavaScript, at least initially, if it would simplify things. Um, and then you can still create basic HTML pages from Erlang. You're just kind of limited in interactivity. If you want anything interactive, you're going to really have to do it yourself for right now, which is already how it is. So I think that would be fine. I am finally actually really kind of liking Arc. I tried it before like a year ago. Uh, I tried Arc like a year ago and it just super didn't click for me because I was really trying to use it like a regular browser. And historically, I've really been a bad tab hoarder. I'll open like just entirely too many tabs and expect them to live forever. And I kind of treat them as like a to-do list almost, which has never even been a great system for me, but it's just a thing that I've done. And because I was like trying to use Arc that way the first time, I ended up switching back almost immediately. Like I only, ooh, I I deleted a line. I only lasted a couple of days with it before I was super sick of it. Um, but I decided to give it another try because I was using Brave, but Brave keeps adding like dumb sponsored things and dumb crypto bullshit, and I've gotten tired of it. And I don't want to just use regular Chrome because I also don't want to contribute to Google owning the entire world. And Safari just like kind of isn't great. Firefox is fine. Um, but I decided to give Arc another shot just to see. And this time it's actually really been working for me because I've like kind of tried to embrace the way that it expects you to use it a bit more. And I think that that really makes all the difference. Yeah, that's the struggle though, is Arc is still Chrome based. I did finally switch to using Firefox on everything that's not Mac OS though. So like on my Windows computer behind me, I use Firefox now. I couldn't use Firefox for a really long time, at least for work, because um, we used like this thing called off-screen canvas, which Chrome is the only browser that has ever supported it. Um, and then because I needed to use it for work, I kind of just figured I might as well use it all the time. Before that, I actually used Safari mostly, and I still just use Safari on my phone. Sometimes I feel like I should use Safari on Mac OS too, but yeah, my main issue with Firefox, well, two things. I'm just really used to the Chrome DevTools. Firefox DevTools throw me off. Um, and just that like they're slower to add new features than Chromium is. I think Ladybird is really cool. I'm glad I'm not the only one, Danielle, because I've also seen stuff like that. It's like super rare, but and I also I guess I just don't have a ton of faith in Firefox's future because Mozilla has really been going through it for like what, a decade at this point. uh your favorite browser would be Lynx. That's incredibly on brand. That's the most on brand actually. Um on the topic of Ladybird though and it not being written in Rust, it's also not written in Yacht. I feel like the Serenity folks were really, really excited about Yacht for like a week, and then they have not talked about it at all in forever. I love Rust. Rust is like probably my primary programming language at this point. Anytime I want to start something new, it's very frequently in Rust. I'm just letting myself get sidetracked super hard today. Yacht is this thing. It's a programming language made by the Serenity OS folks that compiles to C++. uh, and it's interesting. It's like kind of trying to be Swift, but for some reason it's not just Swift. And it still gets a little bit of attention. Like there are a couple of people in the community that are still committing to it. Um, Actually, it mostly looks like it's this one person with the occasional random commit from somebody else. Yeah, like the last time Andreas himself was actually involved was the end of April. Your AI girlfriend joke would make me laugh if it didn't make me so sad. And also, now that I'm on GitHub and GitHub is dark mode, I love that messages are unreadable again. That's very cool. Gotta respect the depth first approach to programming. That is very much me. That's really what ADHD be like sometimes. I think maybe the fact that I'm standing is a little overstimulating at the moment. Maybe I should sit down and also refill my water bottle. Uh, at least she didn't break up with you. I mean, you did just admit to cheating on her with an AI, so clearly she loves you. Hmm. I'm also remembering that Elm actually does some kind of weird stuff with like updating the head. As in, I think it just like straight up doesn't let you, except for the title of the page. Because that the app type that uh, Nakai has right now, this is like the simplest Elm application type. Hello. No worries about being late. I've kind of just been dicking around the entire time so far and just chatting with people and getting sidetracked by stuff. But this app type is kind of the simplest thing that Elm does, aside from just a page that does nothing. So they'll start you off like at the very beginning of the guide. They talk about your model, your view, and your update function. Um, and they do, like I said, they do a very similar thing to what I'm doing, where the model is like just a number. Um, and then you have this on click handler that does decrement. Rather than make it two separate message types, I decided that I would be a little bit fancy and I would just have an update count that contains a function which gets the old count and creates a new count. Um, but then you've got like this click event that returns an update count, and that's analogous to this on click decrement, on click increment. Um, so right now we are emulating the most simple thing that Elm can do. Yeah, it calls them programs. So right now we're a sandbox program, and when you use an element program, you get access to these commands, which let you do effect things. So you can do something more than just updating the tree with a new model, which is probably something that we want. Actually, maybe this would be a good thing to tackle today, is like just messing around with an effect system. That sounds kind of interesting to work on. I used to use Rust at work, but At the moment, I don't get to, except when I work on the Gleam compiler, which like you could sort of count as work. But now we'll start getting some fancier ones. Fancy is my favorite word. Fancy is such a good word. This also reminds me, I I think that the way Elm makes commands work is just by doing kernel code, right? Yeah, it is. That's super what it does. I have a feeling that that's probably what Nakai will want as well. Um, I don't have the energy in me to be as restrictive about kernel code as Evan has been. Um, but I think that it does make sense to write effects in JavaScript, since Gleam doesn't usually have effects unless you're using, well, no, that's kind of a lie, because there are some effect-based Erlang functions. Uh, but anyway, I think keeping the Gleam side of things mostly pure does sound like a good idea. And then we can mess around with some JavaScript FFI stuff. And if I'm going to be doing FFI stuff, maybe I should download the 0.30 RC, um, so that I can be using the new FFI syntax, which also means I'm going to have to remember how the new FFI syntax works. You should. Gleam is fun to play with. Okay, I've talked myself into this. I'm I'm gonna work on just like doing client side effects because that is the thing that sounds nice to me right now. That's a good point because it has Gleam Fix, so I can just write old style FFI and then run Gleam Fix and it'll do magic for me. That would be a great way to learn that. Okay, okay. So we've got this index page. Um, I don't know. I'm just gonna call this one effects. And I'm going to add a link to, oh my gosh. I'm going to add a link to that page. I am going to duplicate this, but call it effects. All right. I guess this one is just going to have its own main function. and that will be fine. That'll be fine because it's just a couple of lines of code, a lot of which are imports that it's going to need anyway. It's not going to be index.app though, it's just going to be app because we will be defining that in this file. And we can just kind of take everything in here. Oh. I don't need that imported. That seems good. Okay. So they show yeah, they just show this here. I'm gonna need to remember how this works in Elm. Oh yeah, Elm, the element also adds an idea of flags, which are basically like just input that you can get to create your initial state. Luis and I actually talked about creating a Gleam HTML package at one point, and ultimately he was unconvinced that it was a good idea. And I think I actually tend to agree nowadays. It sounded like a good idea at the time, but I don't actually think it was, and I'm kind of glad you talked me out of it. Um, the types are just a little too specific to be super generally useful. I think it would be totally reasonable to want other things out of an HTML type. Like, for example, um, like nodes in Nakai already have this generic type for passing through a message from events, but you could totally imagine a world where I never added that because it's just a library for generating HTML and the core library itself has absolutely no need for these. Um, or maybe you come up with some use case where you actually need it to be generic over two types. And I guess you could just shove them into a tuple, but that doesn't feel great. Um, but I think rather than pull Nakai HTML out into a separate package, I've kind of been mentioning that I think my idea, I think what I want to do is leave the core Nakai package exactly as it is. And this like new interactivity stuff would live in some new Nakai something package. Because I do like having a simple version of Nakai that just does like basic HTML stuff. and doesn't need to be super complicated. Okay. Right. So your update function still gets a message and a model, and it needs to return a model and a command. You can command the Elm runtime to do stuff like HTTP. Does it link to that command type somewhere? Or say where it gets it from? Ugh, no. Events on resize, on visibility change, blah blah. Uh, it's just, is it part of Elm core? No, that's like just that stuff. I think it's, oh no. Oh yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier though, is when you use a document type program. What do you mean you'd think you'd want packages to have different APIs and types? Like even if it's all stuff that's like in the Nakai family and meant to work with Nakai, that it should be different? Because I feel like it would make a lot of sense for the for like a more opinionated interactive version to share the same types as the like just give me an HTML string version. Um, but yeah, when you're using the document program, your view doesn't just render. Um, oh, this is interesting. It doesn't just render a single element. It returns this document type that has a title and a body. And don't, I didn't remember that body was a list. So you can put multiple elements in your body. Yeah, I was saying I agree with that. Um, I like came to realize that having a Gleam HTML like specific type would probably be too restrictive. Um, this is interesting though because like maybe I don't actually need to do like this function that I was stubbing out. Like maybe I don't do anything like that. Maybe I just say that the body is the interactive boundary. Um, ooh, okay. I think the body is always the interactive boundary, and your your render function just should like assume that it is running from the root of the body. Because like if we look at the GitHub Pages example and we look at like one of these HTML files, Nakai forces you to always create a complete HTML document with it. So like the source for this page is just like some metadata that we're shoving in. Rob, you're killing me. Now I'm just imagining some like exercise guru influencer being like, experience your body as the interactive boundary while she's doing Pilates or something. So good. Mm. But but I think that makes sense. It just kind of oh, this is interesting. Yeah, this is man, sometimes I forget like Elm actually just kind of makes some cool design decisions. Because I'm just so used to React that I keep trying to shoehorn React things into this in ways that like kind of just probably don't make sense for a functional programming language like this. Because like what this config function does is it renders a head element and it renders it directly next to this h1 element. But then the renderer does fancy stuff to deduplicate head elements and make sure that everything you put in a head ends up in the right spot. And that anything that's like rendered next to it but not in a head gets put in the body. I think it's interesting to think of it as like a list of nodes to put in the body element and then like also some metadata that also just gets returned. The one thing that it does complicate is like if you want to decide on the title of the page like somewhere deeply nested, that suddenly becomes kind of a pain. But it also prevents the case where you um, like imagine that you have two titles that are competing with each other at different places in the doc and that they're like arbitrarily far apart. Um, Like in this case, they're right next to each other, but private function is never used. Yeah, you could imagine that these are like inside of different components that are actually really far apart from each other in the code, but you've set the title twice now. What is the expectation? Because if you do what Elm is doing, suddenly it becomes a lot easier because you get a single title from your view function and you can just say document.title. And then you can just set it and then you get the one title and there's no ambiguity, there's no confusion, there's no magic. You know exactly that you are getting one title and you know what that title will be or where it will come from. Pick the longer title. The hard part with that is like um because right now we're not doing anything crazy like that. We're just we're putting out the exact HTML that you give us. Do I actually not even generate a title for this page? That's kind of funny. Config. Wait, no, what? HTML.title GitHub pages example. Am I blind? Oh, there it is. It gets rendered all the way at the end for some reason. Okay, that's actually really weird. Am I doing something weird with titles that I just straight up don't remember? No, I am not. I know I keep getting derailed, but I'm actually like super confused why this is getting shoved in so late because this is supposed to be an in order render. Like these elements should come out in exactly the same order as you specify them. But it's getting shoved between this pre-connect and this style sheet. Pre-connect, style sheet. And then the first thing is the viewport and the OG title, which are the other. Am I like. Um, I feel like maybe this is just because it's stale or something. Oh, I don't like that. That seems reproducible. That's freaky. Why is the title the only thing getting rendered out of order? I don't like this. Stop it. Okay, I think I see what's happening actually. These elements are all using this weird experimental head thing. Whereas the one thing that does end up coming after the title is this other thing that's actually just a normal HTML element. I am merging heads incorrectly because preserving that order is actually important. I'm going to create a bug for this. Oh no, gethoo.com. I am so incredibly sorry. It stresses me out too, if I'm being perfectly honest. What was a rose pine? Is that a thing for VS Code? That's pretty okay. I'm gonna change it. Because then I can change this back to white and then chat will actually be visible whether I'm on GitHub or in VS Code or wherever, hopefully. Also, yeah, okay, there we go. So you can specify a shadow. That sounds massively helpful. It's stream elements. Hello? Why is it no longer letting me type? What is happening? I switched layers on my keyboard without realizing. Yeah, if you go to like streamelements.com, this seems to be the one that is most commonly used. Um, what if I do like half opacity with a decent bit of blur, maybe slightly less blur than that? Someone say something again so I can see the preview some more. Pretty please. Or can I participate in my own chat, I guess, is also a thing. Hoi. Let's see if that looks okay. It's kind of noisy against that, but does it look better against the files? Still pretty noisy. Maybe transparent chat actually isn't a good idea for coding streams. I just don't want to have to make my window even smaller than it already is. I guess I could just... No. No, I immediately hate that. I immediately don't want to do that. Underscore is kind of obnoxiously hard to hit on my Moonlander, which I'm very much still adjusting to. Okay, and with that filed, why was I even looking at that file again? God, the ADHD is real today. Oh my god. So, I was showing, I was showing that Nakai expects you to render full pages. Um, so maybe Nakai's document type needs to change. And maybe it should change to something where we have different expectations for how you render certain things. Like, you don't get direct control over the head yourself. You kind of have to tell Nakai what to do things for you in a different way that's like less reacty. Because there's a reason that React Helmet is chock full of bugs. Or at least it used to be. I think the newest versions are actually pretty okay, but so um if I were to just spitball here, I want this to be a Gleam file. What if I had a type? type is like document and so this document might have this stuff like an HTML adders and a body adders. Like if we just compare to this existing type. So maybe this is our starting point. But then instead of having a body, we have some other type that's a I don't know, document content. Not a perfect name, but we're just talking. We're just talking. And then instead of a body that's a string builder, you have a document content. And this would be a thing so rather than having the body be built in, you'd have something that takes a model and then gives you your body string builder, or more accurately, this would give you a node that would then be serialized into a string builder. And then maybe this like if we go back here, so document is an alias for a record that has a title and body contents. And this could maybe be a list for good hygiene. It could also just, like if you wanted multiple things, you could just return a fragment. I don't think I have a huge preference either way. I think there are like 3 separate things that you want to have here that all kind of want the same name. But I could maybe call it like a document update, and it's going to be generic on these same sorts of things. You are super wrong, Copilot. Maybe it gives you like a string title and then a body that's a list of HTML nodes. And then instead of your document content just returning that, maybe your document content returns a document update. I guess this doesn't need to be generic over model. This just needs to be generic over the event type. Right. I also, ooh, didn't I? Oh, I did that last time when I was working on optional arguments. I think for this, it might actually be better to like just create a GitHub issue for myself. Because I have some ideas of like things that I think are going to be challenging. One of them is if the server decides an initial state, how do we serialize this and deliver it to the client? Do we just not? Do we assume so one of the nice things about having like server-side rendering with client reactivity is that while you're rendering on the server, you can do a bunch of fetching stuff. So you can look things up in the database and whatever. And then you can use those like really fast database lookups to render the HTML. And those database lookups are going to be way faster for you because you're rendering the HTML from a process that already has a database connection and from like a server that's probably in very close local proximity to where your database is. Whereas if you just send an empty document to the client and you're doing it like SPA style, where the client is responsible for fetching all of its own state for initialization, it has to like create a TCP connection with your API server, and then your API server has to do all that data fetching, and then it has to get sent back to the client, and then the client has to render it into the app. You're cutting out a lot of steps by doing all of that fetching on the server and then rendering the HTML on the server. But that does mean that the app already has state by the time that it leaves the server. And so it's probably going to be really important to make sure that the client understands what its state is. But doing serialization in a consistent way is going to be kind of hard. Especially because I don't want to like make people write a bunch of like serialization and deserialization logic for their model type because that's just kind of obnoxious. Also, I never gave this my get ignore file, so it has a bunch of things included that it shouldn't. There we go. So on the JavaScript side of this, we've got DOM template, and then we have pages, index, and yeah, this. So these are like actual objects that may not behave nicely. Um, with JSON stringify. And yeah. I wonder if we could build in something. Like we build in this inspect method for for JavaScript, could we just oh, did I accidentally layer myself again? I did now. Um, would that work? So I'm in DOM template right now. Bolt test.js. And I've got some class, oops. I don't know. We can call it model. We can be consistent with ourselves. We can test on an actual thing. And then we have a constructor. Um, my God. That actually works. You can just I feel like this would get you into trouble though. This is going to get me in trouble because I'm going to abuse this and then I'm gonna like deserialize this on the client. I'm just gonna claim wildly like, hey, this is the type that you expect it to be, but it's not going to be Gleam's like uh custom type thing. It's not gonna inherit from that. It's not gonna have any of the methods that it expects, and it's going to panic at me about it. Uh but only if I ever try to like IO debug something. There is a small chance that this is going to be fine. Okay, I'm going to do shenanigans now. Okay, so I need I need to render a document that has state on the server. I need to serialize that state. Weird. That message showed up in my chat overlay on the stream I'm watching, but it doesn't show up in the actual chat. But I don't think that that's what would happen. Like, what is? Oh wait, what? We are in the. Why do we generate all of these Erlang files inside the JavaScript folder in the build directory? Build, dev, JavaScript, bunch of Erlang files. Is that a bug? Hmm. What about chat over here? Man, I wish I knew what this message was about because I super don't remember what I was doing like that long ago. Uh, and I didn't realize that my chat had frozen on my iPad, so I missed it. Um, but right, so Gleam, IO, MJS. Yeah, debug. Oh, Gleam slash string. What is string dot inspect call? Do inspect. Import inspect from. Okay. Export function inspect. True, false. Oh, you were talking about your print chat on a receipt suggestion. You were calling yourself a 10x dev. um, I'm kind of in between main languages right now. No, I have the most experience in TypeScript, but I kind of hate TypeScript. I like Rust a lot, um, but am increasingly realizing lately that it is not perfect. Uh, and Gleam is a lot of fun, but like I'm still kind of bad at functional programming sometimes, so it's not always the thing I want to use. TypeScript tooling is so bad. I spent like a couple hours the other day just writing a vent blog post about how frustrating I think the state of TypeScript is. And I ended up not publishing it, but I still think I might at some point because, especially like as a package author, TypeScript sucks. And the way that Node.js has adopted ES modules sucks. And especially the way that those two things end up interacting really, really makes life painful. Um, like it's just unforgivably bad. Yeah, I guess the right answer would have been Scheme, huh? Scheme is my main language, even though I've never written any of it. Lisp was your first language? Like Common Lisp specifically? Okay. Also, Luis, here's what I meant. Uh, so like if you call io.debug, eventually you get here where oh wait, but that try the method call is in a try, so what does this inspect object do? Okay. Okay, I'm becoming increasingly confident that this is actually going. I'm becoming increasingly confident then that this is actually going to work, which is fun. I thought I was going to have to do a bunch of nonsense to get serialization to be a thing that was possible. I think it might just work. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it wouldn't like explode if inspect is just completely missing because Gleam expects it to be like custom type, but I'm actually just passing around a bunch of plain objects because I got them from JSON parse. Okay. Oh man. The other thing that's going to come up is um, how do we know what our view function is on the client? My God. So if we've we've got like our pub fn view model, and this returns like an HTML dot p text, and it's going to be uninteractive actually, just to make this simpler. The count is, and then string concat int dot toString model dot count. And then we do something to render that out. And so then we'll end up with like and then maybe something like that. And then like we would have to inject some sort of JavaScript that would actually like take that serialized state and hook up all the stuff for interactivity. Well, I guess that's another awful thing that I can just blame on God, huh? Sorry, my program seg faulted and ruined your life. Blame God. I just heard someone knock on my door and I have no idea who it would be. But I have doorbell camera stuff. Yeah, I have no idea who the fuck this is. You can go away, pretty please. Okay. Ever since I hung up my pride flags on my porch, the Mormons have left me alone, actually. But I used to get a lot of them. I always have time to talk about our Lord and Savior, the Borrow Checker. Let's talk about lifetimes, pretty please. That's the kind of eternal salvation I'm into. Although it's not very eternal if it's a lifetime, is it? Okay. Okay. I'm just gonna, okay, save everything first. I can't save this one because it's not actually a, I'm gonna submit this so that I can post this dumb thing as a comment. Some clean code. Boop. I can't comment. Screw you. I can comment when I want to. Second time it let me. Okay. Cool. Now I don't need that anymore. Now I can actually clear things out. Okay, so now you have a satanic Bible on hand just for moments like that. Uh, should get like the satanic star tattooed on the back of my hand and just be like, I've already found my savior. Uh, okay. I think I might actually. Okay. So I'm gonna go back and not change those files. Actually, I am just going to create a new thing for me to play with. I'll just call it experimental. That's fine. It's a good name for it. I guess that means I need to. Nah, I don't want to preface it. Experimental. Whatever. That can stay as it is. Um, okay. What do you mean by English Mormons? Like just Mormons that speak English in general? Oh, you mean from England? Does England have Mormons? I don't know why, but that's a really weird thing for me to realize. Like I know they're everywhere in the US, and I know that they like go to other countries to evangelize. England has Mormons. Wow. Dislike that. Okay. Oh, right. I can delete this file too. Delete. And I should delete it from this one too. Paste. Oh, I already did. Right. Okay. Um, no. Here we go. Switch directories. Mormons and Jehovah Witnesses are definitely not the same thing. Jehovah's Witnesses are they're the ones who like go to the extent of denying their children medical care because God thinks that that's bad. So they're a little bit more extreme. Okay. So right. Okay. The um okay. So I'm gonna start off with this just generating a static file like the shit, but this uses Gleam Erlang for that. Is there a library for file system bindings that is node specific? Siri, stop that. Stop that, please. PG-13 filter going back on. Oh, simple file. Yes, 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 yes. It's fine if it's not efficient because I just want to write a static file. I'm gonna do this static site generation style. Okay. So we're gonna drop the Erlang depth, but we're going to add simplify. Thank you for reminding me about that one. I removed that from the wrong gleam.toml. This is a problem. Gleam.toml. Oh, and I copied this from the DOM template, so it already does not depend on Gleam Erlang. Sweet. Okay, so now we're so dom.start is the function for uh, interactivity on the client. We need a function that you can call on the server to create a page that will automatically make itself interactive. Um, this is a bad name because it's copying a name that already exists in Nakai, but I'm just going to call it toString for now. So I have this app that's going to have a default state Um, and I just want to turn it into a string. And then I want to hexdocs.pm/simplifile is going to have a write function that takes a string and a file path, and the string goes first, so I can pipe into it simplifile.write output. And then our dom.toString function toString what am I calling this again? I'm just calling it tree. Tree html.node a, and that this returns a string. No, this doesn't take a, oh, right, because this isn't the same signature as hydrate. This actually needs to be the same signature as like start. So it's going to take an app model message. Oops. App model message. I am going to need to import Nakai's public API, because this is basically going to, yeah. That's like mostly right, except, so we take the app's initial state that we were given, and we pipe it into the view, and then that gives us a bunch of stuff, and then we turn that into a string, and we should be able to just gleam run that and get something. We get some warnings about some to-dos, but that is fine. Delete that to not confuse myself. And yeah, okay, so this is in fact the generated HTML. We need to insert some stuff into here. We need to render some of our own stuff. We need to serialize the state and store that in here. So let app stuff equal that. Let Nakai stuff equal just that for now, and then we can HTML dot join together the app stuff and the Nakai stuff. That still runs and does a thing. Okay. You should make a Lisp interpreter in Gleam. If you want to reference, Louis made one at one point. It's on his GitHub somewhere. Um, and that could potentially be cool to reference. Or you could use Nibble, which is Haley's like newer package for parsing, which I'm pretty sure uh, Louis' example predates. Yeah. Oh, it's on the Gleamlang org. I don't think I would ever dare use LLVM, at least not anytime soon. It seems too big and scary. Ugh. Okay. So what Nakai stuff do we need to um oh, my AirPods are about to die. That's gonna be fun. If I switch to just one AirPod for a minute, can y'all still hear me okay? How did you make a Lisp with a painful AST? I thought everything being a list was like the whole point. You could have a very simple AST because it was all just lists. Um, okay. External FN uh, JSON stringify takes an A and returns a string. Unused function. Um, oh, the other language you're talking about was a Smalltalk clone. Gotcha. App.init uh, gets the JSON stringify treatment. And then this gets wrapped in an HTML dot adders dot type text slash. Oh, right, because that's a keyword in Gleam, so that has to be an underscore. Hmm. There's some weird aliasing around this E, I feel like, because of the large font size. Actually, on this T2, like the stem sticks up through the top. I don't know if anyone else can see that or if the compression like makes it look fine. App.init. Oh, I need one more paren. You don't like that because this is not a list. Uh, that should be doable. It worked. It ran at least. Oh my gosh, that's cool. Okay, so now we have a script tag that contains our serialized state. Okay, audio is still good. see. Do I have any way of telling how charged the AirPod in my case is? Charging is at 33, so I've got a minute before things get dire. I could theoretically just use like my webcam mic or my MacBook mic, but I have roommates who may or may not come downstairs, and I just like my AirPods are better at canceling out the background noise from stuff like that. I think they're also like a little bit better for. It swapped to the MacBook microphone. Oh no! Did it really? Now does it sound like AirPods again? Hopefully, probably. Okay. Okay. So we've got the state serialized and we're sending it over. I feel like this is going to be the hard part though of um like how do I hydrate this on the client in a way that can reference this app function? Because I can't like just app.toString and then shove that into the HTML and expect that to work because it's going to contain like functions and stuff that might not all end up getting linked back together properly. Maybe this is a good excuse for me to get like an actual little dedicated microphone. I've also, wow, okay, I've been going for 2.5 hours already, which is a long time for how relatively little I feel like I've accomplished. Also, guys, I said I was gonna work on like effect handler stuff, and then I completely derailed myself, and that's not even what I'm working on anymore. Like, because I was initially like, I don't even want to work on like connecting the back end and the front end together today because that just doesn't sound fun. And look what I am doing right now. Look what I ended up doing. So,
I found this on the web.
okay. So from DOM template, this imports. Yeah, my Apple Watch Siri keeps like randomly coming up. I don't know why. It's kind of driving me bonkers though. Um I'm also kind of in the mood to stand up again. So we're gonna go with that. I'm also starting to get hungry. So I'm gonna have to go get food at some point soon. I will probably just like keep going until 3 hours and then I'll let it rest wherever I get to. The hangry vibes are real. I don't want to start yelling at people. Okay, so for now, I'm just gonna cheat and right, because we're generating that HTML file now. So what do you mean these types are a mismatch? Oh, no, 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 no. Okay. So one of the Nakai things is going to have to be okay, I'm actually going to want to put multiple things, and I don't want nested fragments. So that's app stuff, and then this is state, and we put state in the fragment, and then we're also going to have let client code equals. I remember that I added some like weird script stuff in a recent version of Nakai. I don't exactly remember how it works. Like, is it just, I think it might just be that it gives you a script tag at the end of the file so that your content loads first. Okay. Right, and the gimmick is just that it inlines it. You can't reference like an external file with that. What am I doing in the renderer? Am I tagging that as a module? Because it really needs to be tagged as a module. Shit! I regret not making this attrs type module. I regret that super bad. Oh, I regret that super, super bad. It's fine. I don't need to use that. I was just going to if it was convenient. So instead of using that, we're just going to have to say it's an element, and the element is type module, not script. Oops. Also, that needs to be a list. And then it's going to also have an HTML.text in it. Backslash. Oh. Wait, why am I trying to backslash that? I don't need the script tags. I do need to backslash that. I do need to backslash that. Theoretically, something like that works. Client code. Try to run that again. That seemed to work. And yep. So we have our script with our serialized state. And then we're importing, right, okay, and I'm actually going to need to rename these though. Experimental client from experimental client. Experimental client dot main, and okay. So now the client is going to do the same thing as this other experiment. It's just gonna render the app by destroying everything and starting from scratch using the existing thing that already works. Oh. In this, I guess I should rename that folder. It's actually going to be experimental client. And then if we try to run experimental, I misspelled it over here. That time it worked. And then a regular Gleam run too. Okay, experimental client from experimental client as blah, 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 blah. And then clear, clear, clear down here, there should be some main. We call app start. Cool. Oh, right, okay. So this can't do exactly the same thing because we already have our initial state. So this, okay. External function JSON parse takes a string. I'm going to be bad and just say that it returns a model. Oh, crap. But then I'm going to have a circular type dependency. That's okay. I can just do this stuff in here, and then I can get rid of that initial state. I'll put my external function up here at the top. And it's just json.parse. Parsing strings, making models. And we're just doing terrible, terrible, no good things and assuming that whatever we are given as our state is actually a valid state, because dealing with decoding doesn't sound like fun. And then I am going to need to import document and then we're going to say let init equals almost I'm going to pipe something into json.parse. So we've got document dot get element by ID. It's not really an ID though. Okay, for the sake of finishing something in the next 15 minutes, I am going to, not that one. I'm giving this a type of Nakai state, and I'm also just going to give it an ID of Nakai state so that it's easy to grab, so that this can just say that, and then I will want to, I have set inner HTML, and I want a get inner HTML from a handle. Haley made me realize the other day that you can kind of just put like arbitrary bullshit here. So get inner HTML takes a handle. Oops. Like, I think theoretically that should work. Why were you not expecting an external function here? Can external functions not be public? Whatever. I don't want to fight with this. So I am just going to accept that I need external stuff for this. Okay. So, oh, I need to rename this too. Do get inner HTML gets the inner HTML. You don't need to take that extra argument. Get the inner HTML does not need to take that either. Takes a single dynamic. Right. Cool. Okay. And then document.get inner HTML. And then I just want to look at it to make sure that we're getting the right thing there. Import Gleamio. Expected type string. What? Get inner. Right. Okay. That's also going to give us a string. Okay. I mean, like, theoretically that works, right? Theoretically, I just nailed this, and except no, I didn't. Document is not defined. Crap. Why is this trying to do stuff? Oh. Okay. Right. Because these share an app. So this init has to be that, because that's the one that's used by the back end. And then this one is going to be our client app. And that runs. And that runs. And then serve. Oh. There we go. Can we verify that we're getting something fancy here? We're getting the response that has like all of the, yeah, this has the state. It's not interactive though. No, that sucks. Okay, I think I'm running out of steam for working on this, honestly. I know I'm really close, but I think I'm going to call it here. And I'll probably do another stream sometime soon to finish this up. Yeah, I'm getting really hungry. I really want to go get lunch. But thank you everyone for coming to hang out. This has been fun. Gotta refine the stream setup a little bit. I hope this recording is higher quality for YouTube because the last one had like a ton of mic issues. I might need to actually give the chat overlay like a background color, but I don't want to just block a giant portion of my screen. Streaming is hard, but thank you for coming to hang out. Y'all are fun. And I am going to go and eat some lunch because lunch is good. Okay, bye.